channel. Today we are going to learn about the topic chemical symbols and chemical formula in an easy and basic way. So without any further discussion, let's get started. Firstly, we have to know about the meaning, what chemical symbols and formula mean. You might have heard or seen these symbols in your daily life. For example, MgCl2, H2O, Fe3+, H2SO4, CH3 and many more. In this video, we will be learning about how to represent elements using chemical symbols, and we will also understand the basics of IUPAC nomenclature in naming compounds. To understand how do we have to know about chemical symbols, we have to use chemical formula to represent compounds. And did you know Swedish scientist Johns Jacob Berzelius introduced the modern system of chemical symbols? He represented the elements using one or two letters from their Latin names. To understand how to use chemical formula to represent compounds, we have to know about chemical symbols. Chemical symbols are the shorthand ways to represent elements in chemistry. Recall that an element cannot be broken down into simpler substances because an element or an atom is the smallest particle in the universe. For instance, sodium is represented by Na, where N is capitalized and is derived from its Latin name natrium. Each symbol is made up of one or two letters. We have to note that always the first letter is capitalized of the chemical symbol. What is the importance of studying chemical symbols? We study them because they provide us the standardized way of representing elements, making communication information about elements and compounds easier. They offer a concise and simple way to represent elements in simple equations, eliminating the need to spell each element's name. Now, let us know about some common chemical symbols. Hydrogen is represented by a single capital letter H. Hydrogen is derived from the Greek word hydro and genes, which means water forming. It is the most abundant element in the universe. Other common chemical symbols are oxygen, which is represented by a single capital letter O. It comes from the Greek word oxy and genes, which means acid forming. It is essential for life. Like hydrogen and oxygen, carbon also is represented by single capital letter C. It is derived from the Latin carbo, means charcoal. It is found in all known life forms. Other common chemical symbols are nitrogen, sodium, chlorine. How many elements can you recognize from the chemical symbols below? As many as symbols you can with the help of your peer. Your time starts now. Now let us see how many chemical symbols could you recognize. Gold starts from capital letter A and small letter U, while nickel starts from capital letter N and small letter I. Likely, magnesium starts with capital letter M and small letter G. Elements are often named based on their characteristics, the substance they were extracted from, how they were found, mythologically beings, location, or notable individuals. Now, let us study about the periodic tables of elements. There are 118 chemical elements listed in the periodic table in a specific order. Eight rules on how to name new elements in the periodic table are set up by the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. It is also known as IUPAC. The periodic table is set on the basis of row, columns, and blocks. Now, let us know what is the role of IUPAC in naming a chemical symbol. IUPAC is responsible for establishing unambiguous and consistent naming systems, also known as nomenclature and terminology. It has a system for naming chemical compounds that provides a standard language for scientists worldwide. How do IUPAC naming compounds? A compound is a substance containing two or more elements that are chemically bounded. A chemical formula is an expression showing the elements in a compound and their relative proportions. It contains a combination of chemical symbols and numbers. Example of a compound is CO2. The chemical formula of carbon dioxide is CO2. And this is the exactly meaning of the formula CO2. Carbon dioxide is a compound of carbon and oxygen. When two car- when two oxygen combines with carbon, we get one molecule of carbon dioxide. The picture in the screen represents the molecule model of carbon dioxide. Naming ionic compounds. An ionic compound is composed of a metal and nonmetal. Some of the basic rules when naming an ionic compound includes a metal will always come first in a chemical formula, followed by a nonmetal. For example, sodium chloride NaCl. While an ionic compound with two elements will have a name that ends with "ide", for example, copper sulfide CuS. Thirdly, a compound with three elements, including oxygen, will have a name that ends with "ate" or "ide". For example, sodium sulfate NaSO4. Naming covalent compounds. A covalent compound has two or more metals. Some of the general rules when naming covalent compounds are: firstly, the non-metal further to the left of the periodic table comes first. For example, carbon dioxide. Second, a covalent compound with two elements will have a name that ends with "ide". For example, sulfur dioxide SO2. Thirdly, use the prefixes mono, di, tri, tetra to indicate the number of that element in the molecule. For example, carbon tetrachloride, which chemical formula is CCl4. Remember that many covalent compounds have common names that are widely accepted. For example, water. Water is represented by H2O, where two hydrogen atoms are combined with one oxygen atom. Other examples are ammonia and methane. In ammonia, one nitrogen atom is combined with three hydrogen atoms. In methane, one carbon atom is attached with four hydrogen atoms. Now, let us play a game with our previous knowledge. Chemistry name game. Identify the correct chemical formula for the following compounds. Potassium bromide. Potassium is represented by single capital letter K, while bromide is represented by capital letter B and R. So, the correct chemical formula for potassium bromide will be KBr. Now, solve the rest of the questions by your own. Now, let us see the correct answers for these questions. Lithium iodide is represented by Lil, while carbon monoxide is represented by capital letter C and capital letter O, CO, while sulfuric acid is represented by H2SO4, potassium nitrate is represented by KNO3. Now let us take a quick summary of what we have learned. Chemical symbols. These are shorthand ways to represent elements in chemistry. Each symbol is made up of one or two letters, with the first letter always capitalized. IUPAC nomenclature. IUPAC is responsible for setting up a system of naming elements and compounds, providing a standard language for scientists worldwide. Naming compounds. Compounds are represented by elements formulae which use symbols and subscripts. IUPAC sets rules for naming compounds correctly. Chemical formula hunt. Now, identify and record the chemical formula, common names, and corresponding IUPAC names for 5 common compounds found in your home. This was all for this video. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe my channel and share to your friends.